Okay, good morning, guys. What I'm going to do here is we're going to learn about the basics of business. So here's just a little funny comic for you to read real quick. And this basically shows whenever you can think about it, there's always an opportunity for business. All right, so first thing, this is probably done by the time you watch this video, was to brainstorm about words related to business. Here is the solution. So you should be copying these down in the notes that you have. So these are the pieces of the business puzzle. We've got accounting, production, skills and knowledge, information and communication technology, human resources, marketing and sales, and ethics and social responsibility. In this course, we are going to learn about each and every one of these pieces of the business puzzle. Next, what is business? So there's different forms of businesses. Are these all businesses? There are exchanges of money that are happening. So yes, they are all forms of business in some respect or not. We're going to be looking next at actual different types of businesses. So in business, there are many ways to classify them. You can classify them in types of businesses as national, local, and global. So national would be something that is at the Canadian level. So if you think of something like the Bay, that's a Canadian company. Local, something that's very specific to a certain region. So in Brampton, if there's a company that resides solely in Brampton, so think about the businesses that are across the street from us, if they're not a franchise, like the small little faux restaurant that's at the corner there, that would be local. Global is a company that is recognized and operates on a global scale, so think of something like Coca-Cola. Businesses can also be classified as small and large with respect to the number of employees that they serve. An important classification is if the business is for-profit or non-for-profit, and we're going to talk about that in a second. So a for-profit business is a company that basically produces or sells goods or services to satisfy the needs, wants, and demands of consumers for the purpose of making a profit. So maybe they don't actually make money, but the initial intent of starting the company is to produce or sell goods or services with the intention of making money. So we're going to talk about the difference between a goods or a service in a second, but for-profit basically means you want to make money and you're a for-profit company. Profit is the income that is left after all the costs and expenses are paid in your company. So expenses are things that are needed to run the operations of the company on a day-to-day basis. You have some examples here like wages, what you pay the workers, office supplies, rent, um, gasoline if you have a truck within the company, heat, hydro, all that kind of stuff, those are expenses. Costs are the amount of money required for different stages of the production system, so raw materials. So if you were a furniture company and you were making chairs, for example, out of wood, the actual lumber that you purchase is a cost because it is used in order to produce your finished product. It is not an expense. An expense is what almost any type of company would have. So advertising, wages, all types of things like that. That's what an expense is. So a profit is you look at all the income, so all the money that is coming into your company from customers who are buying your products or services, and you're subtracting out your expenses and your costs. Next, we have an example. So if you think about a hot dog stand owner or a veggie dog stand owner, if you're vegetarian like me, it's up to you. The owner sells $1,000 worth of food in one day. So that's how much is actually being sold within a given day. On top of that, the cost of the food for the vendor to actually produce is $400. So that's $400 for the buns, the hot dogs, toppings, and drinks. The vendor is also paying $100 per day for renting a stand. So that's another $100. And it's paying a city permit of $25 a day in order to be able to vend or sell hot dogs or veggie dogs on the street. And then the vendor also pays himself $100 as his wage or his pay for the day. So what is the profit for the business? So if you can pause the video and try to figure it out, that would be great. And then we're going to continue. All right, so welcome back. So what you do is you take your 1,000, that's your profit, and then you subtract out everything else. So you take the 400 plus 100 plus the $25 that he's paying for the permit, plus the $100 that he's paying himself. So if you total that all up, you're going to get something that should be $635. Sorry, $625. I'm just going to double check here, 625. So that's how much the expenses were. So if you take 1,000 and you subtract out 625, that should leave you with how much? So if my math is right here, that should leave you with $375 in profit. Okay, next you have nonprofit organizations. So their intent is not necessarily to make money. They want to actually have some type of positive message. So a lot of the times these nonprofit organizations, as you can see on this page, are related to charities where it's about giving back or raising money for a certain type of cure. Going on, we have not-for-profit organizations. So this is a nonprofit on the previous screen here with the fundraisers and the different charities. A not-for-profit is an organization that does charge money. However, the intent there is not necessarily to seek a profit, but any money that is left over after people pay them and they pay their expenses, it is used to improve the services offered to the members and shared among the members. So a cooperative is a great example of a not-for-profit organization, and a cooperative that we know here in Canada is Mountain Equipment Co-op. So that's a great example of one. Next, we have large or small, that we were talking about that classification before. So a large company versus a small one is defined by the number of workers. So a small or medium-sized company has roughly 500 employees or less, and a large company has more than that. So our school board, the Peel District School Board, has more than 500, so it is considered a large company. And it says here that over 1 million of small or medium businesses employ more than 60% of our Canadian workforce. So that's really good to know as well. So a lot of our income that people have from jobs comes from small and medium businesses. Next, we have different forms of business ownership. So there's different types. Sole proprietor is owned by one person. So think about a small business like, say, a restaurant that's owned by one person, like a small little family-run kind of business. A franchise is one business licenses another the use of its name and operating procedures, and often uniforms, slogans, logos, advertisements, all types of that. As a hybrid, it can also be used as any form of ownership. However, a good example of a franchise, one of the most known franchise in the world, is Subway. And next, we have a cooperative, and it is owned by its workers or the members who pay into the business. So they buy into the business, and the example from the previous screen was the Mountain Equipment Co-op. We have a corporation, and the business is artificial. And by law, the business can be sued, but the people that own the business cannot be sued. So a good example of a corporation would be, for example, Coca-Cola. The workers wouldn't be sued. It would be the company if ever anything was to happen. You can buy shares within the company as well for the corporation. Then we have a partnership. It's usually owned by only a few people, so 2 or more. So if you think of things you hear on TV like Diamond and Diamond, lots of legal firms and lots of organizations or companies like that are an example of a partnership. So next, going on, we have goods versus service. This is a very, very important classification. I almost always put this on a test quiz exam. A business can be classified by the goods it produces or services that it sells. A good is an item that can be seen and touched. It is tangible. Just think about buying a water bottle. You can actually touch it. Buying a chair, you can touch it. A computer, you can touch it. A service, on the other hand, is when you provide assistance to others that does not result in a product. So if you think about things that are intangible, you cannot touch them. So think about stuff like a lawn maintenance service or a tutoring company. Like, yes, you can touch the tutor, you can touch the lawnmower, but it's the actual service that's being performed. So just think about some examples of goods or services, talk it over with a partner, and just get your brain kind of flowing with the ideas of goods versus services. Next, we have the role of consumers. Most businesses provide goods or services to satisfy consumers' needs and wants. We're going to talk a lot about needs and wants later on in the course. A producer are businesses that make goods or provide services. So for example, a producer would be the people that make those wooden chairs I was just talking about, or the people that provide the service of the lawn mowing company. Consumers are people who use the goods or services provided by businesses. So the person who actually buys the chair, the person who actually calls the lawn service and has them actually come to their house. The marketplace is any location where producers and consumers come together. It could be a mall, a farmer's market, a restaurant. It could be a virtual setup where there could be a call or you visit a website as a consumer to learn more about the producers who offer a service or a product. The role of the consumers. Consumers influence products, you really do. They stimulate competition in the marketplace. And think about different types of phones. The iPhone came out, people really, really wanted it, couldn't pay the price, and then consumers were saying we need a price reduction, and then there was the introduction of all these other new types of smartphones. Over time, goods can become obsolete if consumers don't want to use them anymore. So think of something like a camera that you actually have film that goes inside. Not a lot of people are using those these days, or the VCR. Consumers influence prices. So example, the price of a cell phone, that's influenced by you guys, and text plans as well. So nowadays we also have some lower tier companies that produce cell phone plans at a cheaper rate because consumers said they want cell phones and they want text messaging plans, but they cannot pay $60, $70 every month. Consumers influence services as well. So think about Blockbuster and how it's not around anymore. It's online now, and there's Netflix and iTunes and such. So those, you guys really do as consumers influence what is actually happening. Needs versus wants. So a need is an item that is necessary for survival. So think of something like food, shelter, clothing that is needed for survival. A want is an item that is not necessary for survival, but adds pleasure or comfort for life. So it adds comfort to your life. So for example, you need shoes on your feet, yes you do, but you don't need the latest Air Jordan types of shoes. Okay, so now think of some more needs and wants and discuss it with a partner, discuss it with a teacher, just think through. And a lot of this course focuses on needs and wants. Essential versus luxury goods. Essential goods and essential services. These are things that you need for survival. Food, shelter, clothing, heating, lighting, water, just to name a few. Luxury goods are or services are things that make your life enjoyable, but they're not needed for survival. So a home entertainment system, you do not need it for survival, believe it or not. A swimming pool, limousine rides, visiting a spa, that sort of thing. So that's the classification there for you. And that's where we're going to end off our video today.